You claim that on January 21 of 2008, you caught Mr. Alexander masturbating to some images of boys, correct?
I only saw one image.
Nothing noteworthy to report. That's what you wrote, correct?
Correct.
This claimed issue involving Mr. Alexander, that's pretty noteworthy, isn't it?
Not for my journal.
It's noteworthy to you, isn't it?
It is today.
And it's so noteworthy to you that you waited until after you killed Mr. Alexander to tell anybody about it, right?
I waited years.
What time did this allegation happen? When do you claim that, we know the date, what time do you claim that you saw this masturbatory activity?
I don't know the exact time, but it was afternoon well before it was dark. It was still light out.
If it was so noteworthy, why can't you remember the time?
It was kind of traumatic.
Don't you think that that would have heightened your senses over what you just saw?
My mind doesn't work like that.
What time did you get off the Mimi's?
A time in the afternoon.
Can you be more specific
No.
about the time? Why not?
Because I don't think I was looking at my watch or my phone or any other clock.
Where did you go after you left Mimi's?
I went to Travis's house.
What time did you get over to his house?
About 20 minutes after I left Mimi's.
And ma'am, in January 21 of 2008, you and he were broken up, weren't you?
Yes.
So it wasn't like you were boyfriend and girlfriend that you went over every day, right?
We were not boyfriend-girlfriend, but I did go over almost every day.
And on this particular day, what were you there to do?
He needed help putting boxes up in his attic.
And had you talked to him about this previously?
Yes.
Was it via text message or was it via some other method?
I don't remember. It was discussed.
Was it via telephone?
Probably.
Well, ma'am, how could you discuss it by telephone if you were working at Mimi's?
It was discussed previous to my shift.
I want to know if that day that you claim this happened, if there was a telephone call in the morning.
I don't remember that part.
What was your number? You've already heard it, but...
831-402-1901.
And that would have been the telephone that you would have used to call him, right?
Usually, yes.
That was your telephone, right?
Yes, that was my cell phone.
And you say, well, normally I would use that to call him. Pray tell, what other circumstances would there be that you wouldn't use your cell phone to call him?
Landlines.
Pardon?
Landlines.
You had a landline also at your home?
There were landlines in the homes where I lived.
I'm not asking about the homes where you lived. I'm asking about the homes on your home on January 21 of 2008.
There was not a landline in that home.
There was not one, was there?
No, there was not.
So you would have had to use your cell phone to call him, right?
I probably would have used my cell phone if I called him that day, yes.
And now you're saying you're not sure if you called them that morning then, right?
I don't think I did because he didn't get up early.
Ma'am, so you're saying you didn't call him that morning, right?
I don't recall.
What was the arrangement about when you were going to come over, or how that was going to work?
Just whenever it made sense.
So whenever it made sense, you were going to go over that day.
Yes, that day was a good day for us.
And you don't know if you talked to him in the morning about telling him that it was that day that you were going to be over.
I don't remember.
And if you didn't talk to him, your coming over would have been a surprise then after working at Mimi's, right?
No, he was expecting me the first time.
How would he be able to expect you the first time if you didn't call him in the morning to let him know you were going to be over that day?
Because it was already discussed.
If you had an arrangement, there would have been an agreement, wouldn't there have been?
We weren't that formal.
Well, but you just told me that you talked about it though, right?
It was discussed multiple times, yes.
Right. And so all those multiple times that you discussed it, you agreed that it was going to be January 21, 2008 after you got off work from Mimi's. Is that the agreement or is that the discussion?
I don't think it was that specific at all.
So what time did you discuss it then?
It had to do with, well, it wasn't that day. It was weeks ahead of time. It was about the Christmas things that were in his attic.
So now it wasn't that day that you discussed it, right?
Once I got there, we were discussing it. It wasn't that day. It was weeks ahead of time. Once I got there, we were discussing it. It wasn't that day.
So what was the discussion then?
Just whenever we got together to do it.
So then he wasn't expecting you like you said he was when you came over that day.
He was hoping I would come over to help him with those things.
Ma'am, you keep saying he was hoping. How do you know he was hoping if he didn't even know you were coming over?
Based on our discussions.
So in your discussions, you told him, I want you to hope that I come over on the 21st?
I didn't tell him that.
Of course you didn't. The point is, you can't tell us anything about the circumstances of that day, can you? You can't tell us about the time, right?
Not a precise hour and minute.
You
No.
can't tell us what you worked at Mimi's, right?
Not the precise hours.
You can't tell us what time you got over to his house, right?
Not the precise minute.
You can't tell us if there was even a telephone call that morning, right?
I don't remember if there were calls that morning.
Right. Can't tell us anything. But you can tell us that you walked in and you went in to help him with the Christmas decorations, right?
I got off work and came over to his house and helped him. He was loading boxes into the attic. He was just rearranging stuff, he said. So I was helping him. I was just handing them up to him. And we were hanging out for a while. He disappeared in the attic for a minute, so I was waiting for him. And then he kind of popped out and said boo and scared me and laughed about that. And then he came down the ladder and he handed me a little porcelain, it was a white porcelain angel that he had. And he handed it to me and called me an angel and gave it to me, and I thought that was sweet. And so I went and put it next to my purse, which was on the dresser in his bedroom. And we hung out a little bit longer downstairs in his office, and then I was leaving. So I ran upstairs, got my purse, shut the bedroom door after I'd already said goodbye to him, and I left. Yes.
And after you helped him with the Christmas decorations, you left, right?
Yes.
Drove away, right?
Yes.
Came back.
And then as I was driving back home, I realized I left the porcelain angel there. And Travis I knew he would, just knowing him, he would call me and make me feel guilty about it, or in a joking way, but in a way that I wouldn't live it down. I thought of getting it later, but because of that pattern, I turned around to go get it. And I called him real quick on his cell phone, he didn't answer. Called him real quick on his house phone, he didn't answer. I hadn't been gone 10 minutes, so I didn't think it was a big deal. I just went back there, I walked in and I ran upstairs and I went into his bedroom to grab it.
Right?
Yes.
And according to you, that's when you saw Mr. Alexander engaged in this masturbatory activity, right?
I walked in and Travis was on the bed masturbating, and I got really embarrassed. Even though we'd been intimate like more times than I could count, it was just kind of awkward walking in on him like that. And I was headed toward the dresser, but then I stopped and I was trying to think of something funny or witty to say, like, do you still need my help or something? And yes.
You then left, right?
And I just ran. I didn't stay. Yes.
And you left in your car, right?
And I got in my car and started driving home. Yes.
And you went home and started driving around, right?
So I left and I drove around for a while in Mason, then I ended up at the Temple Visitor Center and I hung out in there for a little while. And I just was collecting my thoughts and not really meditating, but just trying to figure out what to do next and how to handle that. I went home, threw up, cried, then drove around.
Sure, you did all these kinds of things that afternoon, right?
Yes.
In your car, right?
I didn't throw up in my car.
No, you drove off in your car, correct?
I mean, at the time I was driving his car, but he didn't want to drive my car to church with people. He wanted to take his own car. Yes.
Well, isn't that problematic since you were driving Mr. Alexander's car?
And I got in my car and started driving. I wasn't driving his car yet. I was driving his car, but I got in my car and started driving. I was driving his car, but we were supposed to swap cars. We were going to swap cars.
Well, ma'am, let's take a look at some of the text messages, okay?
Okay.
Those are text messages between your telephone number and that of Mr. Alexander, correct?
Yes.
And the incoming means that that's your message coming in to him, correct? Ma'am?
Wait, say that again, I'm sorry. I was
Do you
reading.
remember previously testifying that when incoming was on these text messages, that meant that that was you calling, or that was you leaving the message?
That was me sending the message.
Right. And the outgoing is him sending it out, right?
Yes.
You also talked a little bit about the timing on there, right? The times that are designated.
Yes.
You indicated that, well, it was 7 hours off, right?
Yes.
That copy that I've given you has taken the time to write down the actual times minus 7 hours, right?
Yes.
And it does not include his responses on there, or his outgoing messages, does it?
Yeah, it looks like it's blocked out.
Right. Take a look at Exhibit 462. Same thing, right? Except that this one includes his responses on there, right?
Yes.
Okay. The times are also written in there, correct?
Yes.
And to the best of your knowledge, those are the accurate times that are written in there. Those are the accurate times that that message was either outgoing or incoming, right?
Yes, those are correct, I believe.
Well, we don't want you to believe. Take your time, subtract 7 from there, and see if that's correct. Because it's important here, we don't want you to believe.
I'm pretty sure they're correct.
When you say pretty sure, it means you're not sure to me.
No, I said I'm pretty sure.
And it does not include his responses on there, or his outgoing messages, does it?
Yeah, it looks like it's blocked out.
Right. Take a look at Exhibit 462. Same thing, right? Except that this one includes his responses on there, right?
Yes.
The times are also written in there, correct?
Yes.
I may have those back. Look for the emission of exhibit number 461.
Section 461, Your Honor.
61 is admitted.
I was confused.